So, have you ever had any friends say, "Oh, I know what you should do. Go to your class and you do these things like you blindfold the kids and have them walk around, have them put a sock on their hand and see how hard it is to do fine motor things, or like put cotton in their ears so they can see what it's like for people that are deaf or hard of hearing." Well, guess what? We don't want to do those simulations. Those disability simulations that you often hear about, or maybe you've done yourself, um, really create more pity instead of acceptance for our kids. So I want to welcome you if you're watching us live or on the replay. Type in the word show notes if you would like to get a copy of the show notes that we have for you with some additional resources about increasing acceptance and decreasing pity. If you are new to the show, I'm Charmaine Tanner. I'm a parent, an advocate, a retired teacher, and my passion is to help you become even more effective advocates for your kids. And one of the ways that I deeply believe in is talking about our kids' strengths, sharing their successes, but also making sure that we instill that disability pride and that our kids are proud of their disability, because that gives them additional strengths and gifts that they bring to the table. So, as we are going through, if you have questions or comments, make sure that you let me know so this can be more of a conversation and not me just talking. So I do have some slides, and if you're interested in these, when I do the show notes, I can attach them to that. So all you have to do is, oops, I don't have it there, is type in the two words show notes in the comments, and you'll get those emailed to you. So one of the first things I wanted to do was to start with a disability quote. From a disability activist, because I think it's really important that we hear the voices of disabled people and not us trying to speak for them. But what she had said is a disability simulation is more likely to invoke empathy or pity rather than true acceptance. And what we want to make sure is that we are helping our kids be accepted for who they are. So let's look at some of the reasons why it's not such a great idea to do those disability simulation activities, but we'll also come back and we'll be talking about what to do instead. So Sarah is here. Hey, Sarah. And Sarah is the one that had originally asked a question on our Facebook page about how to talk to her child's classmates about her son's autism. So Sarah, thank you so much for bringing that topic up. And we will get into some of those specific ideas. And Erica, I haven't seen Erica in ages. She says, I finally get to see a live show. Woohoo! So thanks for being here with us, Erica. I miss seeing you. So let's go on and look at some reasons why we want to stop using those disability simulations. And one is that it really perpetuates the myth that disabled people are incompetent. So that's not the feeling, that's not what we want people to learn about our kids, right? Another reason why the simulation activities aren't a great idea is so many times after kids participate in those, they're like, wow, I'm glad I don't have to use a wheelchair, or like, ooh, how weird would that be? Ooh, I wouldn't like that, oh my gosh, I feel sorry for that person. because that's not what we want our kids' classmates to know and experience either. These simulations, like, having people be blindfolded and walk around the room or stuff cotton balls in your ears, those usually just promote the stereotypes, and it doesn't do anything for us when we want to get rid of all the discrimination that our kids can feel in our communities. The other interesting thing with different research that has gone on about disability awareness simulations is that once the simulation is over, the difference between what life would be like with a disability and what the child's typical life is even more kind of differentiated. And so instead of seeing some sameness between us, we see more direct differences. And the other thing that I think is really interesting that I had read was that what happens is, people don't understand, like, if you live your life with a disability, you have figured out some accommodations that will work for you and that will help. So it's not like this disability is this, horrible, scarlet letter that you have to wear. But because when we do the simulation and we just have kids ride in the wheelchair for a little bit and, try and go up steps and go, oh, wow, I never could do that. Instead, we want to show kids that even if you have a disability, you can still have a rich, wonderful life. So that's one of the things that we want to make sure that we always kind of emphasize. The other thing is what this can do, these kinds of ideas that are planted in kids' heads as far as how hard it must be if you have a disability. And then you think about, people that are employers and that are looking to hire people. And they think, oh, wow, that must be horrible. They use a wheelchair. How could they ever, be an employee in our business? That would never work out. And, so those kind of simulations will stick with people. And that's kind of the bias and the attitude that they'll carry with them a lot of times through their life. So that's not something that we want to create at all, right? The other main focus is what we miss talking about when we only have kids pretend that they're blind for a half an hour or whatever, that we're missing out on the big important reason why our kids will have difficulty navigating in this world. And it's because of a lot of environmental barriers. It's because of how people think, the prejudices that they have, the biases that they've learned. And those are the barriers that make somebody's life not so happy, right? And so when we look at environmental barriers, a lot of students with autism will be, affected by noises. And so we have to look at ways that we can accommodate that. That doesn't mean that their life is going to be terrible. It just means that maybe when they go to school assemblies, they need to wear headphones. So if you're here with us live or watching in the replay, I would love for you to share maybe some times when you have had to talk to your child's friends and maybe explain things to them about, what works well and what your child has challenges with and how that's gone. And if you have some specific tips to share, that would be even better, because we all learn a lot from each other, right? So I'd love to hear what some of your ideas are. So if we go back here and look, oops. Another disability activist said, pity does not equate with dignity. Disability simulations rob persons with disabilities of their dignity and self-respect. And that's something that we always have to be thinking about, is what I'm doing for my child. Is that keeping my child's dignity intact? Am I being respectful? Have I talked to my child? Do you want me to share some of this with your friends? Do you want to talk about it yourself? Do you want your teacher maybe to talk about it? Do you want nobody to talk about it? So we need to make sure that we're sensitive to how our child is going to be if we're trying to explain what their disability is like. To me, the best thing is for your child to be able to have ways themselves to share whatever they feel like is necessary. So we're not making decisions for them, and we're not taking away choices from them either. So what do we do instead? It's like, okay, I get the point. You don't want us doing those disability simulations. Well, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Kathy Snow. She's a good friend of mine, and she's written a wonderful book years ago, and it's still, I think, maybe in the 3rd edition now, but the book is Disability is Natural. And I know Erica loves going to the library. So Erica, I don't know if you had ever checked that book out or not, but Disability is Natural. And what it talks about is how we need to view disability as a natural difference, not a deficit. There always will be people with disabilities. There always have been people with disabilities. So it's a natural part of our life. It's okay. And one of the things that I really like to emphasize and share with parents is to think about, what gift does your child's disability give him or her? Now, that may sound kind of strange. It's like, no, I don't think this disability gives them any kind of gift, Charmaine. But it is a huge part of who they are. And they would be completely different if they didn't have their disability, right? So what I want you to do is to think about, what are the positive aspects of my child having this disability? What job opportunities might be more available to them because they have this disability, because they have this difference, because they have this certain way of doing things? So I would love for you to type in the comments, what are some positive things that you see about your child, and not just strengths, but positive parts of having that disability. So let me put this up here. So if you could type in the comments. Oops, I'm like going crazy here. Type in the comments. There we go. Shoot, I keep doing that. Some of the positive aspects of your child's disability. And while you're doing that, I was going to share a couple stories with you. So when my son Dylan, who happens to have Down syndrome, was in high school, we were doing a transition IEP meeting. Let's see if I can get my computer to, it's not letting me go solo. There we go. When Dylan was in high school, we were having a transition meeting, and the special ed teacher asked if we wanted somebody from the voc rehab department to come. And I was like, I don't really think we'll be tapping into their services, but, I think it'd be good for me to know, what kinds of things they have to say. So the voc rehab person came to his next IEP meeting, and we were talking about different careers that Dylan might want to have. And I had said, I just read this article in the newspaper, and it was about a student with Down syndrome, and he had started this shredding business where he would go to different offices and such and collect their, papers and documents. And he had bought this commercial shredder, and he would do the shredding for them. And of course, get paid for that. And I said, the advantage for Dylan is that he doesn't read very well. So nobody would have to be worried about him, reading their sensitive documents. And I said it in this sarcastic tone to the Voc Rehab person. She didn't get my sarcasm. And she was like, what? Why are you talking about it's good that your son doesn't read well? But it was like, no, I'm going to look at these are parts of who he is. How is he going to use this to his advantage, right? I know I read a story one time about a deaf football player, and he was saying that his deafness was such an asset for him on the football field because he wouldn't get distracted by all the noise and the crowds and everything like that. So look at things that are really advantages because your child has that disability. And that really causes, we really need to kind of flip and switch our thinking in order to do that. But that's, I think, what is really helpful for our kids to accept who they are, for others to accept our kids and not feel sorry for them, because you don't have to feel sorry because my son has Down syndrome. He has a good life, So that's more of the message that we want to send. And I'm spinning, shoot, like I'm frozen. Oh, dear. So I don't know if you see me. So I had like that wheel of spin where your computer doesn't want to do anything. So I'm not sure exactly where we left off, but we will pick back up because we were talking about how to make sure that our kids have more acceptance and less pity. So we are going to try and get back on track here. The day of technology glitches, right? So let's move ahead here. We talked about having guest speakers come in and making sure that the guest speakers talk not only about the challenges that they have, but also the joys of their life and how they can live full, rich lives, right? The other thing that I think is important to notice is when we have guests as, speakers. That was on a slide a couple back here. Michael Remus said that, I love this. He said, two people can have the same disability and still be very different. Not all blonde fourth graders are alike either. So yeah, we want people to know that, because you have one child in your class with autism, it doesn't mean that all autistic people are going to be exactly like this one person. So we need to have more opportunities for our kids to engage with each other and get to know each other, and not develop like, oh, I met this one person and this is what all autistic people are like. And this quote I thought was really good too. It says, just because you can't see with your eyes blindfolded does not mean that a person cannot live fully without their sight. So we want our kids to know that, yes, somebody might be blind, but that doesn't mean that they can't listen to books and still learn. That doesn't mean that they can't use Braille to read or to find their ways and find the office numbers and such like that in buildings. So we want our kids to know, like, yes, you can have a disability, and yes, there's lots of accommodations that make it just okay. What we want to do is more focus on those attitudinal barriers. So I think it could be helpful if you want to do an activity at school is to have students, when they're playing outside, notice, if you were using a wheelchair, would you be able to get on all this playground equipment? Or when they go to the library, it's like, do they have shelves low enough, for everybody to reach the books? In the lunchroom, is there something that we could do to reduce the noise? If we hung tapestries in the lunchroom, would that help? If we had headphones sitting there in the lunchroom and anybody could grab a headphone the day that they needed it, versus like, oh, I think you're going to need this headphone, take this headphone. We need to look at options and give choices to kids and other people that don't have IEPs or 504s to get their needs met. And because of the environmental barriers and often the attitudinal barriers of other people, that is what handicaps our kids. It's not their disability. And I also like this. It says that people don't blame what they should blame: the inaccessible environment and the poor design. They blame the problems on the fact that you have to use a wheelchair or that you can't see. And that's the point as far as, it's not that the person has to be fixed or changed. What has to be fixed are those environmental barriers like stairs, right? Or not the environmental barriers, but the attitudes, the mindsets that people have, the prejudices that they have. That's what we need to change. It's not like there's something wrong with our kids. There's something wrong in our society when we exclude people and don't celebrate their differences. So the other thing that I think is important is to try to pick more natural occurring times if you want to go to school and talk to your child. I know Sarah had talked about wanting to go into the classroom and talk about her son. And Sarah and Trisha, hi. So yeah, I'm sorry, you guys, that we got a glitch there because it was like, oh no. So Trisha is here too, and she says, it's such a nightmare. My 3 special needs kiddos have no outwardly visible disability. Getting peers to understand is painful. And you're right, Trisha. I don't know if you've heard of I think it's the Invisible Disability Project, but that might be a website that you go to. they've got some great resources on there, because you're right. It's like when our kids have these invisible disabilities, that's when people still, they make judgments about us as parents, like, oh, if they would just control their kids, or, if that mother just was consistent. And they don't understand the impact of those invisible disabilities on everyday life, right? When we're, and Sarah had said here, let's show Sarah's comment. She said, sometimes my son gets really overexcited and shows hyperactive behaviors when his sensory system is overwhelmed. Kids don't always understand that Eli likes when friends show calm behavior and approach him with smooth or soothing voices, getting closer to him, and even a soothing touch to his hand. It helps ground him. So see, that is so neat. And to me, Sarah, that would be like an excellent discussion point. Like if you wanted to go to his school and lead that discussion, or the teacher could do it, where you talk about and you share and have all the kids in the class talk about, are there things that just like bug you, and you could give examples like the fluorescent lights, and you could say, even though it's not really loud, I can still hear it humming. And this is what I've had to do instead. I have to try to figure out how I can tune that out. Or, have another child say, the lunchroom is so noisy, I can't stand it. Or somebody else is like, I just want to be by myself a lot. And I feel like we need to have more space in our room for alone time. I mean, there's just a variety of kids that have a variety of things. So instead of just focusing the conversation on this is what Eli is like, the more that we can say, and what about you? What bothers you? What helps you learn at school? So, and you could say with Eli, it helps if we're just a little bit quieter with our voice, and we're calm, and maybe even touching his hand gently, right? So that's going to be helpful for Eli. What about you? What's helpful for you? What would you like people to know? What would you like to change here at school so it's a better, happier place for all of us? So bring in everybody in the discussion. I was showing this slide. So let me go back here. When Dylan, my son, was in third grade, instead of Star Student of the Week, his teacher would have Famous American of the Week. And so this can be an excellent natural time if your child or your child's teacher has something like this set up, where if your child feels comfortable, they can share things that work well for them. Again, you always want to be respectful of your child and make sure you get permission to share what you're going to be talking about. If you'd rather have the teacher do the discussion, you need to make sure you share what information is all right as far as your child's privacy to be talked about. An example of what happened when Dylan was in first grade was, he had all these little girls that loved to be his kind of mother and, and help him and always be around Dylan. And the teacher was noticing that was really hindering Dylan, and that sometimes he would get really mad at kids because they were helping too much. Well, instead of saying, we're going to have a class discussion about how not to help Dylan as much, what the teacher did was, we're going to have a class meeting and we're going to talk about helping. And what are some things that you love when your friends help you do? What do you like to help others do? Do you like to always do things by yourself? How about what fun is it when we do things together? What do you guys love to do when we're doing little group things in our classroom? And so the whole discussion was about helping and being independent and being interdependent. But it wasn't focused just on Dylan. And then the teacher went on to discuss things like, how can you tell somebody to stop, that you don't want them to help you, that you want to do it by yourself? So they talked about, we could just tell the person nicely, please stop, I want to do this. And Dylan was using sign language in first grade. So then the teacher was saying, yeah, and we could also do the sign for stop. So if someone is helping you too much and they give you the sign for stop, you need to be respectful and you need to step back and stop helping them, right? Let them try by themselves. And then he said, what about if you do want help? What are ways that you can ask for help? And so the kids gave different examples of, asking for help. And the teacher reminded them, we could also use the sign like Dylan does for help. And then we know that person wants help. So I really like having the teacher have discussions with the class. However, I know as parents, there are certain little nuances sometimes that we're more aware of than the teacher is. And we want to have that discussion with the class. And I think that's fine. I just really want to encourage you, if you go into your child's class, that you make it a whole discussion about everybody and not, I'm just here to talk about my child. So let's go back here and look some other things that we can do. And this is Dylan with some of his first grade buddies doing some reading there on the floor. But yeah, just the example that we want to include all the kids in any kinds of discussions. I think it's really helpful when we focus on what are similar things between each other. And again, it just wouldn't be between what do you have in common with Dylan, but, what do Todd and Jason have in common? And you can have kids pair up and they can talk about the things that they have in common. And then you can also talk about the things that are different about each other, because we want our kids to have that sense of disability pride, because their disability does give them certain gifts that somebody without the disability doesn't have, right? So that is something that we want to make sure that we instill in our kids, is to be proud of who they are. And who they are is some of a disability, and who they are is also the person that loves sports. Some of who they are is also the person that loves reading Harry Potter books. All of that, right? We want to have our kids understand that it's okay to have a disability. And it's even more than okay, you can actually be proud because you have that disability. And I think when we look at the deaf culture, especially, we see that pride that people have with being deaf. And if we can learn from that, and if we can take away, look at how proud they are. They don't see this as a huge thing for people to feel sorry for them, right? And if we could get to that point with all of us, it's like pride because your skin is black or brown, pride because, you're male or female, pride because you have a disability. I think that will really serve our kids well. So let me know what you're thinking. So Erica was saying that she did it and it was amazing. So Erica, are you talking about going into one of your kids' classrooms and talking? So if you can tell me more about that, I'd love to know what you experienced there. And Trisha is saying differently abled. Yeah, I mean, it's, we all are competent. We all can learn. And we do it in different ways, and thank goodness, right? And now to make sure that the teachers and the staff are aware that our kids are differently able, and they can learn and they can excel at a lot of different things. So, what else can we do instead of these disability simulations? Um, just having our kids together. That's one of the huge benefits of inclusive education, is that our kids get to know each other on this kid level, right? It's not a mystery of who's in that classroom down at the end of the hall that we call the special ed room. But it's like, no, you're Joey, my friend in second grade, right? So that time that our kids can spend getting to know each other, time that they can be with disabled adults and learn from disabled adults, that those stories are so rich and really important for our kids. So all of that is something that we could be doing, that would be actually very helpful. The other thing I was going to mention was a mom that I was talking with the other day, and she has a son that just really learns better when he moves a lot. And a lot of kids are that way. And so, unfortunately, so many traditional classrooms are kind of frown on kids moving and fidgeting. And so, what this teacher did is she taught everybody in the class how to finger knit. And so when they were listening to her read a story out loud, there were different choices. Some kids were doodling because that's how they could just stay calm and focus and listen to the story. Other kids really took on to that finger knitting, and they would love to do that while they were sitting listening to the teacher read out loud. So having a variety of choices for all kids, not just kids on IEPs and 504 plans, but all kids in classrooms, to have ways that are going to help them be better learners, right? And it's okay for people to move. It's okay if your son needs to pace at the back of the room while the teacher is going through a science lecture, because he's probably absorbing a lot of that information when he is pacing back and forth. And if you made him sit down and focus, he probably wouldn't be able to learn as much information. So having that flexibility in our classrooms, all kids are going to be accepted, and all kids are going to have their needs met and have their strengths built on, because that's what we want happening in our classrooms. So at the end of each show, and today has been a wild ride of different versions here of our show coming up, but I want to give you some specific steps that you can take, because we've gone through information. Again, if you want the show notes for today, where I give you the key takeaways, I'll also put in my slides, since it was such a convoluted part 1, 2, 3 today. But type in show notes in the comments and you'll get those. But so for our action steps, the things that I would like you to take away from today is to stop doing those disability simulation activities, to see disability as a natural difference, not a deficit, and to make sure that we listen and get to know each other, because that is what is going to create most change in our schools, in our communities. And by sitting next to each other every day in the classroom, by going to music class, by playing together on the playground, by coming over for play dates, by being in the same Boy Scout troop, those are all ways that our kids are going to make connections with other people. And we know those human relationships are one of the most important needs that we have. So I hope this show has been beneficial. Next week is Thanksgiving. We won't have a live show on Thanksgiving. take the time to do some self-care. As you're, busy cooking or busy traveling or talking with relatives, make time also for yourself. But I hope that next week you have a wonderful time with your family and friends, and we shall see you the Thursday after that. So I'm Charmaine Tanner. Take care, and we shall see you soon. Bye-bye.